What's up everybody, I'm Matt Brody and this is Simply Must Go, and welcome back to another episode where we work on Project Emo, which is my 1993 Jeep Wrangler YJ. I got this Jeep as sort of a project Jeep, and so I've spent a fair bit of time taking a lot of stuff apart, fixing things, chasing wiring, all that kind of stuff. If you are interested in starting from the beginning, I'll link that video up here and you can learn a little bit more about why I purchased this vehicle and what we're going to be doing with it. And then you can watch all the videos and get caught up if you are so inclined. But today, I'm really excited because we are so close to getting Project Emo back on the road. And we're just doing some minor little things now. So today I'm going to take care of a couple little rust spots that have popped up as I've taken things apart. So I'm going to get that prepped and cleaned and fixed. Then we're going to put on a bumper. Now this bumper is one that I've had for a while. Actually made it out of the original bumper that I got on my 92 YJ. And I have a whole video on how I fabricated this bumper, and I will link that here as well and down in the description. But because I don't have another bumper for Project Emo at the moment, we're going to use that just to kind of get us through. I have another bumper that I want to get. It's just going to be a little while before it gets here. And so to get this thing kind of roadworthy so I can drive it around and have some fun, we're going to put on this cool little bumper that I made. And then yeah, that should be pretty much it. So fingers crossed that today is going to be a fairly straightforward and easy day, unlike a lot of the other times I've been working on Project Emo where stuff has kind of crept up and thrown me off and all this stuff. But today we're going to be using a product called POR15. It was recommended to me by my brother and several other people when I asked on Instagram about what they would do to deal with some of these rust spots. And so this was the answer. So I've never used this before, ordered it on Amazon. I'm going to test it out. We're going to apply it to all the rust, and hopefully that takes care of all of our problems. So as you can see, it's really not bad. It's very minor. It's mostly surface rust, but I just want to make sure that it's cleaned and prepped and taken care of so that it doesn't get any worse. Because I do want this Jeep to last for years and years and years and years to come. And this is, I think, the best way to make sure that that surface rust doesn't turn into anything worse. So step one is getting the surface prepped. I'm going to use a wire wheel on my drill. And because of that, I really want to make sure I'm not getting any rust bits or metal fragments in my eye. So I got my eye pro here that's fully sealed just in case. Also going to wear a mask because I really don't want to breathe all that in. So for all of you in the comments who make sure that people are safe, I'm being safe. For POR15 to work, you don't need to get it perfect or down to bare metal. You just need to kind of scrape off as much of the surface rust as you possibly can. But once it was all cleaned up, it was time to take it on to the next step. The POR15 kit comes with a degreaser, a metal prep, and the rust prevention paint. So the first step is to apply the degreaser. The instructions say to make sure it's wet for 15 minutes and shows it being sprayed. It doesn't actually come with a spray bottle, so my recommendation would be grab a couple of spare spray bottles and use those. It'll make your life a little simpler. I simply use the spray bottle to keep it wet and set a timer for 15 minutes and sprayed periodically throughout that time, and then I repeated that step with the metal prep. After 15 minutes, you need to rinse the entire thing off with water and let it dry. I'm just using another spray bottle with just water because I don't want to run the hose in the garage. I let the area thoroughly dry and then hit it with the metal prep, doing the same process. After 15 minutes, it was time to rinse it off with water and make sure it was dry. As you can see, this process did a pretty good job of removing a lot of the surface rust. Again, you can paint directly over the rust with this system, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. I'm gonna let it dry, and then we will get to painting. All right, everything's dry, so it's time to glove up and paint. I decided to use the foam brush that came with this kit because I thought it would be easier to get into some of these tight places and less likely to drip down into the bolt holes. I'm not really worried about how well it looks because it's all going to get covered up. This is really just about protection. All right, so the first coat went on pretty smooth. I will say the foam brush started falling apart about 3/4 of the way through doing that. So if you're gonna do this, I'd suggest picking up some extra brushes just in case. I did, so I'm happy about that. I don't have to run out and get another one in between coats. You're supposed to put the second coat on while everything's still tacky, so you don't wanna spend a lot of time. So make sure you're prepped and ready before doing this. So extra gloves, extra brushes and things like that I think would be very helpful. Also, while the first coat is drying, it's the perfect chance for me to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you've liked this video so far, if you found it helpful, go ahead and punch the like button in the face. Helps out the channel a lot. Also, please subscribe. I've got a goal of getting to 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And it's doable, but I need your help. So please do that if you haven't already subscribed. I appreciate it a lot. All right, let's get back to painting. All right, it's all painted. It looks really good so far. I'm gonna let it dry all night, and then first thing tomorrow, we're gonna put the bumper on. I'm excited about this. I'm happy. So cool. All right, it is a cold, wet morning, but the paint is dry. I think it looks really good. It's very glossy, but I don't mind that. This is all gonna get covered up. So a couple of you might be asking why I didn't put a top coat on. And the instructions said you only need a top coat if it's going to be, you know, out in the open and hit by direct sunlight. And all of this is gonna end up being covered by the bumper and the winch plate and stuff like that. So I didn't anticipate needing to have to do a top coat on this. So if you're wondering why I didn't, that is why. But this is dry. Now, the one thing I want to do as I look through these is these bolts were being used by the original bumper. These bolts were not. They're just sort of opened by the factory, and so because of that, water and things get in. So these are kind of gross. I don't need them just yet, but I am going to need them eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and tap all of these bolt holes just to make sure everything's smooth, and I'll coat them in an anti-seize and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and tap these real quick before I mount the bumper just to make sure everything goes really smooth. This is a 1/2 inch by 13 tap, and I'm going to go ahead and lube it with some WD-40 and then tap each of the 4 bolt holes. Oh man, I almost forgot. I gotta do these lower bolt holes too. Because of the angle and the shackles being in the way, I had to do this with just a pair of pliers. I still don't know how, but at some point I ended up cutting my finger and turning my hand into a bloody WD-40 mess. So with holes tapped and first aid applied, it was time to go ahead and put some anti-seize on the new Grade Aid bolts that I'm going to use. Grade Aid is going to be better than the bolts that were in there, and the anti-seize should help protect any of the new cuts from rusting out. Anti-seize tends to get everywhere, so make sure you wear gloves and you won't have such a mess to clean up. And with the bolts prepped, it was time to install the bumper. So again, this is the original bumper that was on my 92 YJ that I eventually replaced and then fabricated into sort of this stubby bumper. There was some damage to the bumper originally, which is why I decided to cut it in the first place, but that does mean it's a little snug in a couple of areas. With the bumper on, it was time for one last tiny detail. All right, what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Personally, I like it. Now, obviously, I've got a winch and a winch plate coming. They just haven't arrived yet, so this is not the final form of what this will be. This is sort of the temporary until that stuff arrives, but this won't be out on the road or anything like that before that stuff arrives anyway. So this is just sort of getting it on, getting it all set, and anyway, I'm excited about it. And a little later, I'll have my actual bumper will arrive. It shouldn't take too much longer, but temporary stuff to get it up and running and drivable and all that kind of stuff. I still have to decide what I'm gonna do about these front fog lights and wires. I've got some lights that I plan on mounting to the new bumper and stuff, but all of that is yet to be sorted out, so those will be upcoming videos. Anyway guys, I appreciate you sticking in. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. And stay tuned, because next week, well, let's just say next week's gonna be a pain in the butt. This just is what it is. All right guys, God bless. We'll see you in the next episode.